Frankie here. Today I am here with Valencio, Houston,
Yes,
Texas, to talk about experience and knowledge on breaking. Valencio, thank you so much for joining me today. It's an honor. Welcome to Detroit.
Yeah, it's an honor to be on your interview today.
Born in '04, breaking since 2014. Warning here, going to give you a little bit of a glaze here. You know, when I first encountered your footage, it was probably Freestyle Session 21. You battled Jay Funky in the top 16. I don't even remember that. It was right after the lockdown. Style-wise, I think what stuck out to me is just getting to the point. Your footwork serves a purpose to go into a move or out of a power move. The way you transition freezes in and out of footwork, just to the point. Breaking at this point, these 1 minute rounds, maybe we're doing a little bit too much is kind of my sentiment. To start this conversation, you know, you and I have been talking offline here, just hanging out throughout this evening. I want to talk about Winner's Circle. Fantastic name. What a winner means in terms of a person's life means something different at different stages in their life. What a winner is. For you to be still so early in your career relatively and still have this cognizance to engage with the younger crowd of students, I think is definitely something that maybe we need a little bit more of. So take it away. Talk a little bit about Winner's Circle. What are we dealing with here in terms of your inspiration, you and Marcus?
Yeah.
What has the dynamic been between you two working together?
Winner's Circle is a hip-hop school that me and Marcus opened up December 9th, 2023. So we've had it open for about 2 years now. What we do there on Galveston Island is we instill winner mentalities into the youth through the art of hip-hop and breakdancing. And so I think it's super important to realize what this winner mentality is, and all this mentality is just hard work backed by faith, because we can work hard towards whatever it is, but at the end of the day, if we don't have that faith, if we don't have that belief in ourselves, then all this work is kind of just purposeless. You know, there's no purpose. It's not really fulfilling to us. It's a blessing and it's an honor to be able to provide for the youth and provide them an outlet just to be able to express themselves. Children have an innate desire to kind of just be heard and be seen. And I think when we give them that platform to just express themselves and appreciate the small wins in their dance journey, I think that's what matters most. We really want to preach to these kids that it's not all about the wins or the trophies, but it's about those small wins, you know, whether it's just them getting, you know, a small foundational move, or it's them just nodding their head back and forth to the music and them really just being present in that moment. You know, I think all of those are small wins. I don't think there's too many times where kids are really able to express themselves to the fullest extent. Just being able to be that for the younger generation, and also still being able to connect with them in a way where maybe someone a little older than us can't necessarily connect with them. It's awesome, you know, just being able to connect with them on a different level. So yeah, the dynamic between me and Marcus of running this school, I mean, Marcus is my brother. We met each other through dance, actually, and through another hip-hop school, Break Free hip-hop school out in Houston. Later on in our journey with Break Free and kind of graduating through their program, we just decided that we wanted to do our own thing. The dynamic of me and my brother running our own hip-hop school has, again, we're brothers, so, you know, we kind of bump heads a lot. That's just natural as being brothers, but at the same time, I think those challenges kind of help us connect with one another, and also just like we get through those problems together at the end of the day. We might bump heads, but we're at the end of the day, we always find a solution, and we come back to our common goal that this is our mission and this is what we started, because we do this for the children, we do this for the students, and this isn't necessarily for us, but it's for the future generation. Every time that we remind ourselves that we're kind of aligned with just this common goal and this common mission, it gets us right back on track, regardless if we might be beefing or we might be, you know, just going through it, whatever it is. That always kind of brings us back to reality, and it helps us stay aligned.
I did not know about the faith-centered aspect for your school, and that's whether you're a breaker or, you know, people in the audience that relate to that spiritually, whether you relate to that or not, it's just a matter of fact, if you can center students and your group overall on just a higher meaning.
Yeah.
It just completely changes the game for your level of breaking too, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, yeah. again, like appreciating those small wins, but also just appreciating the having fun aspect of dance is so important. That's really what kind of grasped our attention with dancing in the first place. You know, like back in the 90s, people didn't start dancing because they thought it was going to be in the Olympics, or they thought there was going to be these huge competitions. They started breaking because they liked to get down. They liked the ciphers. They liked, you know, maybe just calling out their friends or whatever it was. But it wasn't necessarily just because of competition. It was because they had fun doing it. I think when you stray away from that, that's whenever you start overthinking. You get a lot more in your head. But whenever you just remind yourself that, you know, this dance started to have fun and to just express yourself, that's whenever you feel, what is the word? I guess like gratifying, right?
Are your students hungry?
I think it's different with every kid for sure. You know, you have some kids that come in and they have no competitive bone in their body, and then you have another kid who right off the rip, they're just like, oh, I want to tear everybody's head off. But you'll see even some kids who come in without that competitive bone in their body, you could definitely instill drive and hunger into a kid, I think, especially whenever they're surrounded by other kids who are all aligned with like this competitive mentality or just this winner mentality. I think that's what really drives the other kids who might not be as competitive to want to, you know, get a win under their belt or just do better for themselves.
How many students are there, and are they tight?
Yeah. So as of now, we have 7 students in our studio. Every time they get down, they're just having fun, and especially at our Saturday open sessions, you'll see a lot of them. You know, there's those moments where they're just like playing around with each other, messing around, but whenever they get down, they get down and they put their all on the floor. You know, so that's what we like to see.
The biggest thing that a dance school, I feel like, can really enhance, as opposed to if, for example, you grew up watching breaking on YouTube and you were really going about it your own way, you get to share those moments with the homies.
Yeah.
Right? And that's huge for you to be able to facilitate that for them. Because it's always the most hungry, like the most vicious battlers that you know. You ask them about their inspiration, a lot of them will be like, dude, I just wanted to smoke my crewmate, or I just wanted to smoke my homie, right?
Yeah.
You did mention a couple bits of your personal background as well. So let's back up a little bit. Let's go back to break free a little bit, your experience there and just starting breaking.
I got into breaking because I was just a super hyper kid. My parents kind of saw that I needed something to get that energy out. I was always doing like handstands all around the house and just throwing my body around. And so that's whenever my father, he looked into if there was any dance schools around the area, and that's when he found Break Free. I had went on a cruise ship with my family. And at that time, I had no breaking experience whatsoever, but I just enjoyed to dance and I liked music. And there was this kid who was dancing in the middle of the cruise ship. Out of nowhere, he calls me out. He like points directly at me, and then we just had this dance battle in the middle of the cruise ship. Everybody's hyping us up. People were actually coming up to me and they're like, hey man, you did really good. Like, where'd you learn to do that? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, that was just all in the moment. That's what dancing is about. Anybody at the end of the day can dance. Anybody can get down and just move their body around, you know, and that's the cool part about dance, or that's the cool part about breaking, you know. I think the fact that I was able to just be present in that moment so early on in my journey was pretty cool, you know. But yeah, after that, I got into Break Free Hip Hop School, and I was able to learn through some really great mentors, B-Boy Moy and B-Boy Jeremy, and that's how I got introduced into breaking, and later on I ended up joining the crew Havikoro. A huge blessing to be able to learn from 2 great b-boys like those people, and as well as Palmer, and there's so many other mentors that I was introduced from Break Free, as well as like Jesse Germ was a huge mentor in my younger days with breaking, and he taught me just the style elements, you know. He was part of Vicious Germs, so Vicious Germs was a crew known for just their style and just them bugging out. And so Jesse Germ taught me that, just top rock and just how to have fun with the dance. You know, Moy taught me the power moves and to put your all into breaking, and like every single move that you do, you got to give it your all, and also, you know, have creativity behind it. And that's where Jeremy came into play. He had the creative aspect, and same with Palmer. You know, they're brothers, so they're both just like 2 super creative individuals. I think being able to pull inspiration from all these different b-boys and mentors in my history of breaking was like, that was what was most important for me, you know, being able to not just take away from one person and not just like close the doors off, but really just like, use all these different b-boys that were teaching me and like take away from them, be like a sponge and just absorb all that knowledge. Through Break Free Hip Hop School, they taught me a lot in my journey, and yeah, I'll forever be grateful for everything that they've done in my career.
Jesse Germs, wow, Vicious Germs. I love hearing these old Texas names. Why do you think Havikoro was interested to have you part of their crew? Do you have any guesses or any dialogue with them about that?
I think that they saw that I was hungry. Honestly, that's if I had to think back to the biggest reason, I would say it's because I was hungry. Like, my goal with breaking was always to level up and just be the best possible me I could be, and I think a big reason for that too was my dad as well. He was in the Olympics, the Youth Olympics 3 different times for Taekwondo. And so that same competitive mentality that he had with martial arts, he brought that over to my breaking. Whenever you have someone like that sitting in every single one of your practices, because I was blessed to have, both of my parents be supportive of my breaking career. And so my dad he'd be like a dance mom, just sitting in on every single practice. And sometimes we would butt heads, but he had my best interest in mind. And he wanted to be the best possible breaker I could be. Yeah, I think Havikoro saw that I was super hungry. I noticed that in Texas, I was like, okay, once I'm able to beat the kids in my age bracket, I got to go to the adults. Once I'm able to beat the adults, I got to beat everyone in the States. Once I can beat everyone in the States, then, overseas, right? And I always just kind of had that mentality of like, I have to always be leveling up.
Shout out to Palmer and Jeremy coming out to Detroit a couple summers ago and just getting to see the way that they move. Not only that, but the way they battle.
Yeah.
Is just like that insane look in their eye. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I actually battled with Havikoro before I was actually in the crew at a B-Boy City. I forget what year it was, but we ended up winning that. And I think just being able to say that I got a dub with Havikoro before I was even in the crew, it was super cool. It was a fun experience.
So now, Vale, what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to react to some of your old footage. I don't know the last time you've seen some of these clips, but we'll give you a chance to kind of give us a little backstory from what you remember about these clips, and then also just get to react to, style-wise.
Yeah.
What are some of the maybe gaps in your approach that you've had to adjust and improve over time, of course? So let's just start with this first one. So this first one we're going to watch is from Break Free. It was the 2-on-2 in 2019. So not the one you won, but it was the one from a couple years ago. You guys made it to top 16, you and Marcus. And you guys battled Beast Coast.
Honestly, I kind of forgot about this event. It's been so long. Really, I just remember at this moment in my career, I was just more like moves than anything. I didn't have the style aspect. I still wasn't too confident in myself as a dancer, and so I wasn't really too confident in my dancing ability. I think at that moment, it was more so just like moves back to back to back for me. Yeah, I like that lag.
Valencio.
What do you think?
It wasn't a bad round. I think as far as like how loose I looked as a dancer, it's just that's the biggest difference I see from now for sure. I still felt very confined. I felt like super tight, but I don't think my moves were that bad. I think I was still like super hungry around that time. At that time, it didn't really matter who was in front of me. I was still gonna go as hard if, the best b-boy in the world was in front of me, so.
What did your training look like?
Yeah, at this time, it was a lot of me and Marcus just practicing together, and my dad sitting in on our practices and kind of just, tweaking the little tiny details in our rounds, trying to help us really solidify our moves. Yeah, at this time, it was just a normal thing for me and Marcus to just be training all the time together.
What's the age difference between you two?
Marcus is a couple months older than me.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so he's 21. I still haven't turned 21 yet. I turned 21 October 23rd.
So this went into a tie break.
Yeah, I don't remember this battle at all, though. It's crazy.
B-boy Valen.
I still do that step too much to this day.
What do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Wait, did we lose the tiebreaker? Yeah, we did. Okay. I'll give it to myself though. I think even at this time, I was never scared to take those risks. You know, so I'll pat myself on the back for that one, for sure. But
Do you remember kind of what your inspirations were for going into these battles, or like what the atmosphere was like?
inspirations as far as just like different b-boys and b-girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say who was I like really inspired by at this time? I know at this time I was really inspired by my mentors for sure. People like Moy, Jeremy, Jesse, Germ as well. And then I think just a heavy hitter in the scene at this time and still to this day is Zek. So yeah, Zek was a huge inspiration in my dance, and I think with a lot of people's as well. You know, you'd be lying if you said he isn't a huge inspiration to everybody, just because his level of execution, to his confidence, to him always being on beat and staying in that pocket of musicality it's next level, you know? So yeah, I would say those are some of my biggest inspirations at the time.
And
Yeah.
it just so happens they were here at this event. I don't know if you remember either. Doug
I remember
killed it.
Doug killed it, yeah. I do remember that. He had some of the craziest rounds there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's move on here. So we're gonna jump in time here a couple years. So this is Freestyle Session 21. This is after the lockdown when they had the one-on-one.
Florida? Oh yeah. This is kind of my breakout moment.
So what do you remember about this as I'm pulling this up? This is a couple years
Yeah, like I said, this was my breakout moment, not gonna lie. So at this event, I think this was my first stance clip ever, I'm pretty sure. And that stance clip got like 1 million views or something like that. And I was so hyped to see that was my round. You know, I feel like I was still lacking a lot of belief. So just to see that my work was actually paying off and people were messing with my round and messing with my style at the time, that was super cool for me and eye-opening, and showed me that I did have potential in the scene. I think, you know, we can say that we have that self-belief, but if we don't really see that there's no impact from anybody else, then it can only go so far, you know. So yeah, just to see that my work was paying off, it was really good. And yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty solid round. Yeah, I think I was staying in that pocket from start to finish. This was, I think I had been to a freestyle session prior to this, but this was one of those freestyle sessions where I just really felt in the moment, and I felt like I had to prove myself, and I had been practicing a lot at this time, like very consistently. So yeah, I felt like it was a lot easier to apply that to the battle floor.
Definitely a difference from the last clip.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just as far as control and composure and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. Second round was a little worse than the first round. But I mean, after I saw the crash, I was like, okay, I don't need to do the hardest round in the world.
Clean.
Yeah, just keep it clean.
Definitely the breakout moment for sure. Even for me, I had a buddy send me this clip like, yeah, look at this kid. So jumping ahead to Breaking for Gold, the Breaking for Gold tour, you did the full tour from what I remember in 22. It was like a half a dozen events over the course of like the winter. And then you also did you came back to the Midwest the following year for the Minnesota one. As I'm pulling this clip up, just overall takeaways from that overall experience. I mean, what an interesting flashpoint in our breaking history overall. You know, the Olympics it kind of seems like it's come to an end.
Yeah.
Kind of an ending chapter. So what were your takeaways personally from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, from doing those half a dozen events, I think some of the biggest takeaways was, I mean, really just being able to walk away with that experience. You know, you do that many battles in a year, you're definitely walking away with some experience, regardless if you're not the best breaker in the world or if you're already high level. You know, you're walking away with more experience than you had beforehand. So the experience was definitely the biggest takeaway for me. Really, yeah, I would say that's the biggest takeaway for me. I would say the experience, you know.
Did you feel it was high stakes? Do you remember it feeling high stakes in the moment, like round after round, any more than a normal battle?
Yeah, I would say, I think it was higher stakes for sure. You know, I think also like the level of competitors that were showing up to these events were a lot higher than just your everyday jam. So there was more pressure, but I think in my entire career, I don't think I've been too bad with handling that pressure and like, you know, cracking under pressure. So I think just, you know, trying to stay composed and understand that like I'm there to prove myself and do my own thing, you know, not trying to dance like anybody else, just dance like I'm supposed to dance, you know.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily good or bad, but definitely the energy of those events were different. So I went to the Minnesota one in 22. I went to the LA one the following year. The LA one I just remember so vividly. It was like there were 40 of us.
Yeah.
Of course, huge scene in LA. Only 40 people showed up from all over the states. And like everyone was just there to do a job. And so the energy was definitely way different. Not a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Not a lot of ciphering. It was just like the people that were there to place, like they were just like, don't talk to this guy, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. No, it definitely feels like you're trying to check off certain boxes compared to just bringing your own style to the floor. And I think at the end of the day, even if you're checking off boxes or if you're not, breaking's still going to be subjective. So it's like if there's a certain judging criteria, I don't necessarily know if it helps or if it doesn't, you know, because at the end of the day, breaking is still going to be subjective.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
If, you know, in the future, fingers crossed, any sort of revival, I mean, they still do the WSD, the World Games or anything like that. Does that interest you at all?
Yeah, for sure, because, I mean, it's just being able to prove yourself at a higher level, you know, like, I mean, it's like the NBA for basketball. If you're not able to perform at that level, does it necessarily make you any worse as a breaker? Not necessarily. I don't know. I think it's just it's important to put your practice into like actual battle experience, and then just be able to show out at the highest level. I think that's kind of like what we're all training for at the end of the day. You know, I think if you're saying that you're just, and yes, there's those people that train just for fun, but I think if you're really being honest with yourself, majority of people want to win, you know, or either experience the feeling for that win, you know. And I think once you feel the feeling of getting a dub, then you don't want to go back, you know. It's like you only want to strive past that, you know, and exceed that. I'm not content with what I've done in my breaking career so far, you know. I think we're kind of wired to just want more, and that's what going to these big events is, you know, being able to prove yourself against people from Europe, from people from Korea, people overseas. And I think naturally, they're already at a higher level than people in the States right now. So I think we kind of got to, like, you know, take something away from them, you know, take that confidence away from them and show them that we can do this as well. It started in the States, so why can't we, really show our skill level and show them that we can do it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the way you worded it too, is basically no one's ever tired of winning, right? If you're constantly winning, you're going to get out of bed, right?
Yeah.
And so for you to get up and constantly wanting to sharpen yourself, it's a really interesting split, I think, among breakers.
I think so too, yeah. Yeah. I think even whenever someone necessarily does get tired of winning, I think at that point they just lost themselves mentally.
Sure.
Like I've seen some of my favorite b-boys in the past start to, just do worse overall as a breaker just because like they kind of lose that foundation of what got them there in the first place, They're like, okay, whatever, I can just dance however I want to now, and then now they start looking too abstract, or it's not even really breaking anymore, So I think staying true to that foundation and then also having your style and having a good balance, that's what makes a true high-level competitor,
I like that you bring up that example. In any field, not just breaking, if you look at champions that stay champions for a long period of time, first of all, that is so incredibly difficult. I don't think people necessarily internalize how difficult that is. When you're playing tag, it's easier to chase than to be the one fleeing, right? Mm-hmm. Just in that way. And then on top of that, if you take someone who's a champion their first season or whatever, their motivation for making it to the champion then versus by the time they're doing it maybe the sixth time, you better believe, I don't even need to talk to them to understand, the motivation has to be different.
Yeah, it changes for sure.
I would say in general, if I were to put in my terms, maybe it's more for the love of the art at that point, as opposed to maybe more personal goals the first time around.
Yeah, I would say so for sure.
Yeah. But that's just kind of my overall sentiment on that. All right, let's watch this. So this is from the Big Apple Regionals. This was the New York one in 22. This is your prelim.
Okay.
What do you think?
It was a pretty solid round, not gonna lie. It was pretty solid.
Yeah.
I remember at this time, I think, one, off the rip, you see a lot more confidence in this round, I feel like, right? And growing up, I wasn't the most confident kid. So I would say what gave me that confidence early on in my breaking, and even like towards my later years as well, was my confidence in my moves, right? Like once I gained that experience and once I really locked down the moves and my foundation, that's what gave me a lot more confidence personally. And I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword. And that's even something that I recently learned from traveling to Europe is like, I don't just have to be confident in my moves only, but I can be confident in just doing a cross step. Or I can be confident in just doing a kick out or some hooks or super simple foundation. It doesn't necessarily have to be the hardest moves in the world for me to be confident. I can run my stuff and still show off my style, just doing the most simplest things. But yeah, I would say around this time, it was my moves that gave me that confidence. And I think I was really learning how to execute my stuff while still maintaining that control during my round.
That's interesting that you mentioned that too. Sometimes people that are so focused on the move, you can see them prepping up to that moment. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Okay, you can anticipate another move's coming up here, as opposed to really being engaged the whole time and not being so predictable to your audience. Right?
Yeah, having that element of surprise in your round.
We're gonna watch one last clip. This is 2025, so we're jumping a few years ahead into time here. This is with the boys, TMB.
Oh, nice.
I love seeing this, some more of the air power, Valencio. I like this. Yes. So can you talk about, how's training been up until this point? You're still getting a lot of the battles in, of course, but yeah, how has training been going just overall when we're thinking about more recent times?
Yeah, I think around this time, training has been going good, and of course you have your ups and your downs, but I think the goal is to always maintain that, just that steady progression, getting 1% better every day. And especially just being in some high-level crews, crews like TMB, Havikoro, my other crew, Illicoro as well, and just having all these other people to like push me to be better and seeing the level that they're on. And even with like someone like Mace, for example, we see Mace doing crazy things right now, and he's at all the biggest jams, performing very well, right? Being in the finals, being top 8 at least every single time, right? And I mean this in the best way possible. Like, I love Mace, and I always want the best for him, but I see Mace with these opportunities, and I see that, and I'm like, well, I could be there as well, and it's not in no envious way. It's like, I should be there as well, and I think it's more so just imagining yourself in that position and kind of just like manifesting it. And I think if I wasn't to envision myself in that position, then it wouldn't be attainable, it wouldn't be something that I'm able to grasp. I don't know, that's kind of what we're always doing whenever we're even practicing, we envision a move and then boom, we throw it and then we make it come to life, and that's what being an artist is, envisioning something and making it come to life. So I think whenever you think of things in that aspect and then you start to gain confidence behind your art form, that's where that progression becomes a lot easier, And it just becomes a lot, even like, you feel a sense of freedom as well, because you actually feel the progression and you understand that it is possible and it's attainable, and it's not just some goal in the air, but it's actually something that you can envision and you can, grasp onto.
Right. Yeah, really well put. Yeah, it's not envy. It really is empowering, really, in that way. It's inspiring to have, your boys lead by example in that way, and understand how it fits you. It might fit for you in a different way, right? But you can still be there nonetheless. Yes.
Yeah, we call Mace the general in our crew because that's just his position in the crew,
What do you think?
Yeah, I think you see more confidence already, and more control in my movements as well. I think in this first round, I was like still maybe a little too fast, and that's just because, I don't know, I'm always gonna be my biggest critic, and already now I feel like I've progressed a good amount from just this battle, right? But no, overall, I think it was a pretty solid round. Yeah.
Do you watch your footage?
Yeah, I watch my footage, yeah.
And really dissect it, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it takes me like a week to watch it though, because I don't know, it's weird. Like I said, I'm my biggest critic, so even after I might win a jam and then I feel like I don't do that well, So it takes me a little while. I'm like, I don't want to cringe too hard watching it or something,
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sometimes the wins that you have, like, that you kind of, what is the word? Saying you sell yourself is kind of harsh, but maybe you really you're really stretching though, and then even afterwards, even though you won, like you said, you might feel like, oh, I just feel whack,
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes, if you have those moments where maybe you have a new sort of thinking, your mindset is evolving, and you try something different, even though you lose, you're like, dude, that was still a good round. I still felt.
No, for sure, yeah. Yeah, and I think even at this moment and a realization I had after this is like, at this time specifically, I didn't even really like performing that much because, again, like I said, it felt awkward to put myself out there in front of a crowd, I felt like I was like selling myself, and I felt like maybe it's not a version that's really truly me. I felt like I was acting too much, But at the end of the day, I think faking it till you make it isn't necessarily something bad. And I don't even think it's acting at all. I think it's just practicing good behaviors until they become reality, you know? Practicing confident behaviors until you're an actual confident person, you know? If you don't practice, then how do you like believe that you're gonna, you know, actually be that person one day? So, yeah, you have to practice those behaviors to become that version of yourself, regardless, or otherwise it's just not gonna happen, you know.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily acting. It's just, you know.
Yeah. Maybe put differently, I know exactly what you're saying. I have a mentor that told me this. He said, if you're only ever in your own head and you don't take action and you fail, then as a mentor, I won't feel sorry for you. But if you fail through action, like you tried and you failed, now I can help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Val, thank you so much for your time today. That's pretty much going to do it for today. I wish you, of course, best of luck for years to come with Winner Circle, of course, and you're just getting started, of course. You know, a year and a half is just the infancy, so we're very excited, of course, to see where that goes, especially in light of you continuing your own journey, you and Marcus, right? I believe that the best teachers in any field are the ones that can relate to their students as much as possible. So for you to be young teachers still going about your career is just so invaluable for your students, right?
Well, again, thank you for having me. Thank you for the great questions. Yeah, my future goals for breaking, I just want to continue to just level up with my career-wise, with the school, with being able to provide more opportunities to dancers and artists in the community, not just dancers, but you know, other artists as well, DJs, graffiti artists, whatever it may be. Providing more competitive opportunities as well, you know, like we have an event March 7th through the 8th next year called Run the Circle, and that's going on in Paraguay, so that's going to be our first international event. And it's a qualifier for Freestyle Session's World Final going down in Japan of next year, towards the end of the year. And yeah, just being able to provide something like that for South America, something that they're not really used to seeing big events like that. And the fact that there's those surrounding countries where they can all just come to Paraguay and they can all compete and go at it and really just be able to test their skills. I think that's something that's super cool and something that we should be proud to say that, you know, we're the ones hosting this event, we're the ones throwing this, and we just want to continue to just do great things like that and yeah, just glorify the sport of breaking, glorify hip hop, glorify even Christ. I know that, you know, everyone might not be spiritual, but for me it's a super spiritual journey. Just being an artist in general. Yeah, that's really about it. And
Really? Yo, we're out of here.
it.
Peace.
We out. Peace.